When we think of fall, we most certainly think of all the beauty nature has to offer this time of year. The warm, inviting colors and textures of the season are the perfect theme for any fall table. So let me share with you 5 tips to set a simple, natural fall tablescape. Mixing warms and whites is such a beautiful contrast for fall. I started with this classic brown and white gingham tablecloth as my base. Oh, and be sure to remove any dinosaurs before taking photos. A seasonal floral arrangement is always a classic for a tablescape. I filled this vintage crock with some hydrangeas that were starting to turn their beautiful fall colors, some fresh eucalyptus, fall berries, and these little wheat-like stems I found at Trader Joe's. I'm not sure what they're called, but they were a really fun addition. Let yourself think outside the box for your arrangement. You could certainly use a crock or a vase, but you could also use an old kettle, a basket, really anything. Going back to our warms and whites for a minute, we started with the warm tablecloth, and then I added some neutral wood chargers I got a few years ago at Hobby Lobby at Christmas time. Just remember, just because they sell it in one season doesn't mean you can't use it year-round if it's neutral. Then I added some white plates I found at the thrift store. They were actually originally from Target, but I got them at Goodwill. I like to use white plates in my tablescapes for 2 reasons. 1, food looks the best on white, and 2, they're a nice neutral canvas I can use anytime, so I have fewer items to store in my already cramped house. Speaking of storing fewer items, I always just use our everyday silverware for my tablescapes. It's fancy enough that it works, but I don't want to have to store bunches of silverware that I'm only going to use occasionally. My 3rd tip is to add some warm and weighty metals like these vintage brass candlesticks I found at the thrift store. This will help anchor your fall tablescape. After adding some white linen napkins tied with simple cotton kitchen twine, I started layering around the candlesticks. I started with this really pretty delicate garland I found at Michael's that has fall berries and acorns, and then I started tucking in some mini pumpkins and some sprigs of eucalyptus. Layering your decor is going to create depth and interest in your tablescape. Lastly, I tucked these floral picks I found at Michael's into each napkin. They just had the prettiest pine cones and dried fruit and fall berries. I thought it was just the perfect final touch to this natural fall tablescape. My final tip is to be sure to always check the toxicity of plants before incorporating them into your tablescape and take necessary precautions to keep your guests safe. I hope you enjoyed this simple, natural fall tablescape. Thanks so much for watching.